my passion is here in Hempstead. So when I saw this job, that the census said you had to work from home, boy, I thought it was different. I thought it was literally just working from home. As I started applying more, and the questions that they would ask me during the interview, it helped me define who I was and my passion. And that's a pride in my community, using my path and my formula to educate others, to speak the same language. Terminology is important, and to have the drive. So I came upon this lovely partnership specialist and working for the census. But most importantly, as you hear me talk, you'll really get an idea of who I am and why I'm here, because it's bigger than just this message for our community. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. And so we will begin. To segue into what Brandon was saying, I am a representative of the U.S. Census, so my goal is to give you the information as transparent as I can, leaving out the opinions. Thankful I'm trained enough to answer the right questions, and we can have an offline conversation, further questions if you want to have. But most importantly, there are a lot of distractions out there on what the census is. There's a lot of news and media, social media has added on to it. I won't touch those things or give you an explanation, but I will give you the real truth or the data and what it means for our community, Nassau County and Hempstead in particular. And why Hempstead is because Hempstead is what the United Census Bureau is calling low response, hard to count. So that means the residents of Hempstead are not completing it, one of the highest areas. And I said, great, I am so happy I'm from Hempstead. That is so easy, because I'm from the community. And that's part of my role in how they created this job. But according to the U.S. Census, Hempstead first, then comes, is about 34%. That's one of our highest. After Hempstead, it is Roosevelt, Freeport, and Westbury. AKA the corridor, really, right? And it goes down. But Hempstead is #1 at the highest of 34%. And of course, coming down from my department, the area they talked about are the housing units. I don't know what housing units is. I used to work for the city. I know what NYSA is. And do you know the housing units that they're calling? They're calling Park Lake. Is it Park Lake? Park Lane? Terrace Avenue, right? Martin Luther King. And I'm like, really? So again, that's why my position is here, to be able to translate that and explain it. So I'm going to talk to you more about the 2020 census and why we're here.
You want to,
yeah, if someone could, yeah. You want to go for me? Thank you. So, the 2020 census, to come up with the facts, is mandated, part of the Constitution, every 10 years. The last one was 2010. I worked as a numerator. We'll talk about that. The goal of it is to determine the number of seats in each state, so it has a U.S. House of Representatives. So we know what that representation means. I think that's a macro of what that means. But we're going to go deeper into what that means for Hempstead and for our community. It defines the congressional and state legislative districts, school districts, and voting precincts. So this data determines voting, budgeting, zoning, representation, all that for Hempstead. Now back in the days, my great-grandmother used to always have things in a shoebox or have the most important numbers on a composition book. And I always say, how important is it if you have it and the people who need it don't have that information, right? We need to move from what we have paper, right, and take it to where it really counts, because decisions are made by what we give out. And decisions will be made from the census. So it determines the annual allocation of $675 billion in federal funding. So there's $675 billion that go out that's allocated to each state, and is only determined by the numbers that we put in from the Census Bureau. It provides insight to government, business, and community planning groups for planning purposes. So we talked about opportunity zones. Some of us have heard that. Where does the term opportunity come from? Where do they get that information? From the census, and I'm going to show you that. Where do they get grants, funding, CDC funding, community development funding? All from the information that's provided from the census. So our goal here at the census is just to count everyone once, only once in the right place. So everyone that lives in a particular place, wherever that place may be, we don't care what it looks like. We just want everybody in that place and in the right place. And the right place could mean our college students. It can mean families from children that live with one parent or guardian and the other. But we want to get them where it counts and in that right place. Yeah. Did it work? Or the arrow? And I'll go more while we're waiting for that. Is that here is, I don't know if you took, there was a document. So George Washington University, let me take one, sorry, did a research on where this $675 billion come from. Where do it go? How is it allocated? And I'm going to show you where it's allocated so that you can understand and then you'll follow along with me. And if you took it, it looks just like this. It's called Counting for Dollars. So if you took that one, it's called Counting for Dollars. And this is specific to New York. And I'm going to put it on the screen too. That's that teacher part of me. I'm a teacher, so we have to have different modalities of learning. I'll see if I can get it. I doubt if I can get it on the screen because of the internet. But let me tell you exactly what it is. So if you see here, New York received $73 billion, 73 plus. If you look at it, it is determined by certain information from the census. One of the highest ones up there is Medicaid. I don't know if that applies to anybody here in the room or anybody that you know that received Medicaid assistance. Federal student loans, SNAP. So if we ever had anybody that went in for financial assistance and needed SNAP and SNAP ran out, you want to know why it ran out? Because the people who needed it, or the actual numbers, they didn't account for themselves in the census. Because in order to be eligible for SNAP, you needed to there's a certain income requirement, and sometimes people don't want to disclose that information because they're like, why am I giving you that information? Well, you're giving us that information so we can determine how much each state, each area need, so then we can then give you the money. So I have a 4-year-old, if she asks me for $20, I'm asking where's she putting the $20? What are you getting for $20? And that's basically what the state is saying. I'm giving you $73 billion. I need to know where it counts, where it's going. And this is not just about financial assistance. This is about health insurance. This is about highway and roads. How many people are commuting to work? We wonder why MTAs are different and we don't count because there's so much money I can't afford it. So I'm choosing a different job. I have to work locally because I can't afford to commute to the city because I didn't let them know I was commuting or where I work at, because these are the simple questions that are asked on the questionnaire of the census. And all this is determined. Head Start. Now that is a big thing. We know the state of education and where we at. Our hardest to count group are families that have children from 0 to 5 years old. For some reason, families are not reporting that they're expecting or that they have young kids. And a result of that is we don't see too many Head Starts out here, and we don't see too many early Head Starts. Now, if you go in the city, there are tons of early Head Starts here. And because I'm from here, I know where the EOCs are in the Head Starts. There's Freeport, right? Someone said yes. There's only Rockville Center, Hempstead, and they only give them a certain amount of slots. So the government and the state is not going to say, we need to have a whole Head Start building. Because we have an expected rate of every female is having 2 or 3 kids within the next 10 years, because the census is 10 years. And it may not be relevant this year, but what they do is they forecast it for the next 10 years, a growth rate. We are growing. So we need to input this on there that we're growing, give them a baseline so that they can predict. And we want them to predict. We want them to forecast, because with that forecast and prediction, they can make better decisions. So everything I do, I base it on data-driven decision making. When they have the data, they make the decisions that count. So if you look at this, unemployment, community service block grant, all these things determine child and adult care food program, unemployment insurance, federal transit. If they said that they need to revitalize Mineola, where do you think that money is coming from? Government provides the aid because they're saying, well, majority of Long Islanders commute. I commuted to the Bronx every day. I needed to let them know. They ask you questions about owning a car, right? Gas, location. All of that determines where the funds go. So George Washington University actually did this research, and we hand this out to create that transparency. And that is our goal. The next thing it talks about businesses. So I have an MBA, and the first thing I'm doing when I'm investing in the business is looking at the community and what's there. And I'm going to show you the results of a census, the questionnaire, what information is available to you and anybody else that's investing in the business. Not only are they're looking at the school districts, they're looking at the area, the median income. If I have a new product, I want to be able to know that people there can afford the product. I need to know that there's growth there. If I'm planning to open up a school, a college, a university, I'm looking at the trend of the educational attainment. And let me tell you, if you don't put it up there, Nassau Community College cannot grow. Our schools cannot grow. And some people are saying, what information am I putting up there? Why do I need to let them know that I don't have a high school diploma? Well, guess what? They'll allocate funds to GED or adult literacy programs, because they're dictating what our community organizations are providing us. But if we don't say that there's a need or that I'm available, then they don't know. And then look at the other side. For those that have things that we want to contribute to the questionnaire, like I am a grandmother taking care of my kids, that is great. That determines Social Security. That creates programs like take care of your elders and get paid to do so, right? Because unemployment is low, there are more senior citizens around that need care, and businesses are not investing, so the government is going to provide aid to organizations that pay. And all these things are decided by the 2020 census and the questionnaire. So I will, did I do that right? So, in receiving this job, I was sworn in. It was kind of scary as a federal employee. This is the teacher part of me. I move around. Hope I'm not messing you guys up. I was sworn in as a federal employee. It was scary because I never thought I could be a federal employee. For confidentiality, and anybody that works for the census is sworn in for confidentiality. Now, I've never been in jail, and I do not have $250,000, maybe in student loans. We'll talk about that. But if I breach any type of confidentiality, I'm fined up to $250,000 to go to jail. So what that means is if you see me in the street, I don't know your address. I might just know it from knowing you or you knowing me. But every employee is sworn into this oath and do not disclose any information. So remember we talked about earlier the things I said I won't touch, the distraction, this eliminates the distraction. I will never disclose any information, or any employee will never disclose it. Now we're talking about data protection and we're talking about cybersecurity. That's another distraction that's out there when it comes to the census. I literally had to go upstairs, log into my phone just to get a PowerPoint because the internet is down out here. That's not my personal computer. It's provided by the census. The security that I have to go through, and I show you the token just to log into the computer, will let you know alone that this information is not disclosed to anybody. I can't talk about other things. If you have a question in particular about some of the distractions, Brandon will chime in. But these are one of the issues that we have when it comes to why am I filling out the census and the world going to know who I am? It's not like that at all. Any questions about data? No? That's a good group. No questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
In terms of aggregating the data, I know that we're doing more like people-to-people response, but are they using any other types of data that's out there to also make up the census? Because we have social media now that wasn't as robust 10 years ago. We have other sources of data such as like our social security, credit card data, royalty rewards data. I just wanted to know how that fits into the bigger picture.
Great. So getting right and segue into how the census is designed, it's simply this here. It's a step process. So how it starts first is that way before I was hired, we had a geography group that worked with the U.S. Postal Service, that worked with planning to identify the where to count, the addresses. So we're not talking about the vacant buildings that's here. We know no one is living there. We're talking about where people live and exact addresses. Because we're moving to an information world, so things are now available that wasn't available a couple of years ago. So right now, we're finalizing the where to count, the exact addresses. We use old data from the previous census to aggregate it to figure out, it was 5 people here, maybe a change, growth. And then they come up with a plan of how they're going to disseminate that. So then it goes motivating people to respond. So now I know how many people are forecasted to be in Hempstead. I'm going to hire some people from Hempstead to be trusted voices to go out there, boots on the ground, which is a very familiar term in Hempstead in the corridors, all different ways, to go around and talk about why the census is important. We're going to identify those low response areas that we talked about, like Hempstead, Roosevelt, Freeport, Glen Cove, Westbury. And we're going to put people there and create a campaign. Now, this budget is separate from the state, the federal budget. The U.S. Census has a budget because this information is important to everybody. So it's all planned and allocated. It targets specific ads, specific audience, specific people, social media, Facebook, to get people to know what the census is about. Then we go from that to say, hey, we're going to do a telephone on paper self-response. So what they decided to do now is that we will mail the census questionnaire postcard to you saying, you live here. If you're tech savvy, you can fill this out yourself online. You can call in. We have translation for you because we all know what the knock on the door is. So before the knock on the door, we're going to let you self-respond. And you can self-respond on the internet or over the phone. And we give a time for that. If you don't self-respond, it's when the knock on the door starts to happen. Now, it's about a 6-month period because, you know, we get a postcard, you don't fill it out, you leave it on the refrigerator, you tell your other half to do it, and you don't do it on time. So we give you that time to get it done and to remind you how important it is. That's where the social media come in, the campaigning, because you're going to see it. It's going to go full force. And you'll be like, you know what, I got this postcard, I need to do it. When you don't do it is when now we have enumerators. The enumerators are those people that will be knocking on your door and asking you the same question that was on the questionnaire that you didn't self-respond. They're going to ask you the question and ask you to fill it out. The good thing is that it's 2020, and there are what we call these iPads that has instant information, because back in the days, if anybody remember, it used to be a 20, yes, it was like check-off writing. It took a time, you're in there with your house coat on, and you're trying to go back and finish cooking, and you got somebody at your door, you know, knocking. But now it's going to be a tablet where it's a questionnaire online. You can check off the boxes, hit submit, and it goes up to our data team and done. That helps out the person filling it out and our enumerator as well. We take that information, and that's when we start to count who we have here, who have submitted it, our efforts, and we start to take that data and make it work. After that data, our job in the census is to release that forward. Now, the census day is April 1st, so yes, it falls on April Fool's Day. I won't correlate the two, but it works. After April 1st, we then take that information and we send it up to Congress. And immediately after that is when they start rezoning us. Immediately after that, because it's the data. They trust the data. We don't for some reason, right? So they're going to take what we give them, and they're already going to start redistricting. We already lost 2 seats, if you don't know that, in New York, right? Because we are growing as a population. We're not telling them we're growing because we're not complete in this. But they don't see that we're growing. They see us decreasing, because let me tell you, the people that leave, let it be known that they're leaving, right? So if anybody leaves from New York to go somewhere else, they're going to fill out the census. New York is the hardest state to count, and that's what this is. Yes, ma'am?
How do you, or do we, account for homeless people?
Yes, that is a very good question, and I have that in a slide coming up. Thank you. So, just to go back to this, and I'm going to answer the homeless. This is the timeline that it has. You have 4 different opportunities to do it. You could do it online and self-respond. And what it is that each geographical address has a geocode internally. So when you put your address in, we add it to our geocode track, and we know what you're putting in. So we know instantly when someone from a certain address is filling it in. So you can do it online, phone, paper, or a visit from the employee. We've now changed. We have 12 non-English languages. We have 59 guides. We have video, print. So basically every format for everyone. So with the homeless, there's a separate team that goes out that identifies the homeless, their locations, their hard to count areas, and we try to get as much information as possible on the homeless. Now there's a margin of error, and that's why it's considered low response, because all that is added to the area. So if we have immigrants that are not reporting, homeless, we have something called Hofstra University that have tons of temporary residents that we need to make sure that they are, that's one of the largest universities in this area, because I'm only talking about Hempstead, we have Stony Brook and all that. But for Hempstead, we have the students who are not reporting at home, but they spend most of their time here. We have Uniondale population where the kids are renting out, right, homes. And so we need to know around Hempstead and Uniondale, are they permanently here, how long? And all the questionnaires determine that. So homeless, students, housing units, those are our low response areas. And those are where we're boots on the ground to get the right information. Yes?
Can I ask a
Sure.
question? I know, like, I don't know if they're still doing this, but I know in some upstate communities, they were counting people in prison there
Mhm.
that were coming from downstate areas.
Mhm.
Do we also, is that still happening, number one? And number two, do we also count people who are imprisoned in Nassau County? Do we get credit for them?
Mhm. So we partner with the government, the elected officials, and the community and these areas to get a count ahead of time. So they already received a preliminary questionnaire way in advance so that we can see if we got enough information and do we need to change our plan. And then we go in and we speak to the officials there, the administrators there, to get those counts. Because again, we're trying to get the right count, the right place. It goes by residency and where you're living during the time of the census count. And that's what we're trying to grab. Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify that, Nassau County Correctional Facility
Mhm.
is in East Meadow.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the inmates are not from East Meadow.
No.
So where are they counted at?
From their addresses where they live. So their residential address.
Their residential address.
And we have a separate team that identifies their time, how long they're there when they fill it out, and we ask for their permanent resident, and that's where it goes. Now, the census information from the correctional is a whole nother information that we're taking. Because not only are we getting where they live at, we're also getting their intake numbers, right? On how many prisons that's there. So that's compared to what they provide, whoever they regulate, whoever their regulators are, but also who fill out the census as well. Because sometimes the numbers may or may not match and where they're coming from. So that information helps as well and sends up, because that's a population within itself. So we count that as an address and a population, and we determine where they live at and where their residence is. And that's why we go way ahead to get that information, so we can then separate it, segregate the information, and aggregate it. Yeah.
Sometimes you have people that live in apartment dwellings.
Yes.
And they're overcrowded.
Oh, yes.
And then, they go through our school system, but they don't be accounted for through the census.
Mhm.
How do we deal with that?
So that's why my job here is to talk about being a partner, to spread the word, to pass on, so that we can then tell those people that we are familiar with, our neighbors, our neighborhood, and say, this is very important for you to complete the census. Because you are here, not letting us know you're here, but consuming every resource that we have. From the streets to the garbage, everything is allocated from based on who lives where. No one gets the information from anywhere else except from the information on the U.S. Census. It's the demographics, and I'm going to show you that information to see what it is. But that's exactly what we're trying to do, to let people know we do not care your situation, we do not care your status, we do not care about the distractions that the media is saying about the census. We care of who's in that area, what are they using and consuming, so that the resources are allocated the way it should be.
And you don't care if they're citizens.
And we do not care if they're citizens.
So what you're doing, this is really on a statewide level. You're concerned about the total number and how it affects each individual state, not on a personal level.
No, I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even be able to look. I'm not paying nobody $250,000 to care to a certain point. I just need to be able to get the numbers to say where this $73 billion should go. Right? I have family and friends that applied for Section 8, for SNAP, for Medicaid, and they said the funds is out. I can't help you. Why? Because they're basing off a number that does not exist for us. That's why I took this job. In addition, I'm a grant writer. I write grants. The information I get to write grants and their decision of giving me a grant is based on the demographics from the census. So I was writing a Head Start grant, and they only told me it was 30 slots available. Now, I could walk around Hempstead, and I see more than 30 young kids from 0 to 3, right? Because I was a principal of a school, and I realized that we can't wait till when they're this age. We need to wait till they're babies, and why don't the state care, right? Or why don't the government care? Because we think they don't care. That's another distraction. But it's like, we're not telling them that this is what's needed here because we're not giving them that information. I'm thinking they just throwing money anywhere. No, they're saying according to the census, you only have about 100 kids, so that's about 2 per every female, and I'm going to show you where they get the information from, so you only need 30 slots. And that's just early child care. You think about Title I funds. So Title I for school, it depends on the level of income in the school district, that they make a median income, and they determine that school district Title I. With that, school gets more funding, more teachers, more intervention, more aid, more grants. Community organizations must work with that school district. And that means majority of kids are eligible for a lunch program. How do we determine if we're eligible for a lunch program? Is by the family household income. But if we're not reporting our income, then we can't allocate that school and identify that school as a Title I, and there's no funds for Title I. If you're not Title I, I'm sorry. Yes?
And you may not be able to talk about this, and this is fine, but when you talk about the hard-to-reach areas such as like immigrants, we do have a high immigrant population within the specific community. Is there a strategy around debunking some of the myths that this person, you're not really looking for this personal data on them as individuals, but it's more or less going to contribute to all of the benefits that you shared. Is there a specific strategy around that for these hard-to-reach areas outside of the general census strategy?
No, it's just a census and my job. So I met with George Ciperone at the Hispanic Civic Association. I go to tabling events. I work with George. I worked at the Nassau County Youth Board. And that's why partnership specialists, because they're saying you're in the community, you know who to go to. So we're going to save time by trying to get somebody who does not represent the community or don't know the trusted voices. I've worked with Flex numerous times, right? Mr. Watts, sorry for the person. You know, I'm on social media, so I know the go-to. I went straight to George, who's now a trustee on the Nassau Community College. So now the relationships and the networking is working to say we need to come together as a community, right, and be champions. I mean, we're parallel on a lot of things when it comes to the immigrant population, and here we're parallel. But if we need to move forward in 20 and above, we need to come together to make sure our data is right. Right? Because if you go into George Ciperone's office, he has the voting districts of the Hispanic population on his wall. And he had that since 2010, and nobody would know that. And I checked it, and I emailed my data specialist, and I said, can you provide him with an updated version? And can you check to see if this one is accurate? And that's my job to do. And I said, you know what? The Hispanic population do vote. They do vote, right? So we need to figure out, we're parallel, we need to come together. They need aid, we need aid, if we're going to do us versus them. But we need to move together as Hempstead to figure out, because we're all intermingled. The money comes just like this. The money doesn't say Black, Hispanic, Latino, or anything. It says, who needs Section 8 housing? Okay, $1 billion went to Section 8. But however, if you look at it, and I'm going to try to show you without the internet, I might ask you to pull up your phones because the internet's not here. You'll see the demographics and information. So that's what I'm trying to get to.
Can I just ask you?
Sure.
I know you spoke earlier about confidentiality and the rigorous ways that the census protects the data. But just in overcoming people's resistance, how is the Census Bureau addressing the very public experience that we've all had of different government agencies being hacked and breached, and we've all experienced this. So, and they all said we're going to keep your data safe. So how are we addressing it? That's a real concern.
It's a very big concern, and the only thing that we're doing, one, is again my favorite word, transparency, the trusted voices, allowing you to see the information that's there. We are not allowed to share our information. We were protected by the Constitution and the law. The U.S. Census is the only agency that doesn't share information with other agencies. So when we get that census information, only the numbers, because that's all that matters, the numbers are given to the president, and the same information is then given to the public. So we don't give information with ICE. We don't give information with the police force. Now, there could be these separate entities that are trying to get the information, but right now, no one is giving us that information. Come in, how you doing? Okay. And that's really all that we can do. And I know it's a lot. We're just saying we're victims. We've been there before. Again, I'll give that D word of distractions because we never heard of the census data being exposed because it's already public of what the information that we're asking for and its income level. So hopefully I answered it to a certain point, and I can go offline with you with that.
I think the media at present, and it's almost politicizing it to the point where you really don't trust what the government's going to do with all this stuff.
Get it, and I know I represent the government at this point standing up here, and I know Brandon touched on that, and that's why I'm using his words of distraction. I can't comment on their role, their motive, and their reasoning.
Right.
I went through extensive training. I am I can't even walk through a door. It changed my well-being of of being a federal employee. So they're leading by example, and they gain my trust with me because I couldn't stand in front of you because when this position is over, this is temporarily, I'm still Monique from Hempstead, right? So I'm being put out there. I'm the one that you're going to see later. And beyond giving them $250,000 to disown my community by lying is more far of a penalty than the $250,000.
Right.
So I come with that trust and telling you that it took a lot for me to get this position, my background and everything, and they do everything.
I'm saying it makes it more difficult
It
for
does.
you.
It does. It does.
Because we're hearing all this negative stuff every day.
Well, like Brandon, you touch on
I
it.
was gonna say, I want to put a pause on it for a second.
Yeah.
If you could maybe set up this Wi-Fi possible.
So the address will be called a place, and we want to be able to know how many people is in that place. That's it. And then from that, some of the questions on there that I tried to bring up was just income level. Are you commuting, going to school? Now, before the census, there's something else that we provide, another survey called the Hts Survey. That happens in between the census. And we then go a little bit more detailed into that information. So that's just pulling more data so that it's not so hard to get the decennial census data. So some of you guys might have completed certain areas where that's where the educational attainment comes in. So again, there's two different types of way that we get information. There's one in between the census and then the one on 2020. The 2020, we're specifically saying on 100 Jackson or 100 Terrace, how many people is in that building, because that brings the population. Because it's zoned, we then can predict how many kids need to go to the middle school, that needs to go to the high school, how much funding. With every child that follows a school, there is a tuition rate with that child that the school districts get, right? So it goes, and this is public information. This is nothing I'm disclosing. Every child that goes to a school is an amount that the school gets to do everything they need to do. If we don't count that school, the kids that may go to that school district, then is the school district really getting the money? That means your tax dollars is now spread out wider for a population of kids that we didn't know was coming. So not only do the schools report, because I used to be admitted, we report how many kids are there that we know. That's after the funds them came in. Where are they getting the funds from if another district is counting it or another town? Because we did not identify that. So I want us to go back to what we're saying is that the data we have is the low response. The areas that do not respond as a whole, the biggest one at 34% is Hempstead. The map, and I'm going to give you the website to the map that you can look on there, it's color-coded. Hempstead is dark blue. Dark blue means, Monique, you have to go there and get people to complete the census because they're not reporting. And where does the numbers aggregate? In housing. In the single family that is actually housing 10 people. And we don't ask right now, it's not about immigration, it's about what are the people in that building, in that home, in that area, what are they using? What is their income level? What school district they're going to? Are they commuting? What language do they speak? That's where the ESL, English Second Language funds come in, right? Because when we don't get aid, we're never going to catch up. I keep on saying that, right? So if we talk about not speaking another language, and we need people to speak our language, and I'm just speaking of terms, I'm not telling you my opinion, right? We're not going to knock on them and teach them how to do it. That's not our role. But then they will allocate funds to the school, or tell EOC, or tell Percy Jackson, or anybody that applies for a grant, or any community, anywhere to say, you need an English as a second language program, you need to offer it for free, no one's going to pay for it, they can't afford it, but in order for everyone to be okay, for them to take advantage of what's available, they need to speak English. And that's how all this is determined. That's why they ask you, what language do you speak? Where did you come from? Are you planning to leave? And these are just some of the questions that is up there. So I will go, and my role is to do that. So if I can give you this timeline that's happening now, is that we're going to open up an office in Garden City. And I know what you say, that's Garden City. I had no of that. I wish it could have been in Hempstead. But that's just an operational area. So the counters will work from this Garden City area. I would be in that area. Now, someone talked about the enumerators, the census takers. It's two-folded for that. They also would be trusted voices to let you know the data training and the scrutiny they went to keep their job as well. So that's just another way of marketing, outreach, and saying, you know, yes, this is a part-time temporary job, but I had to hold my ID, my iPad, I had to leave there. I mean, if you just notice, Brandon just gave me the Wi-Fi, and I still can't pull up the internet on my computer. So that just lets you know that even if I have to use a trusted Wi-Fi just to get a PowerPoint presentation. I can't email a PowerPoint to my personal. So I know that kind of, I know you talked on the topic of hiring people from the community to take that information is at a breach. So they don't hold the information, it's now on an iPad, because before it was pieces of papers as you and I discussed, and you put it in your pocket, and as soon as you hit send, it is erased from the iPad and it's up to our data team. That's fast, and that's thanks to technology. And that data team, we can go into the integrity of that, but that's what the new wave is going to be. So now we're going to open up an office in Garden City, in Brookhaven. The jobs is going to happen, the advertising. So every information question I get here, I take in, I report it. And they try to create campaigns based on your concerns and your interests. And you're going to get it from a higher level. So I'm just here to speak a certain, you know, to get you warm and untrusting. And then I take in these questions, I report it in, and then our campaign is about that. Or I get the specific answers, and I come back to the community saying, all right, this is our data breach one, like this is what we're doing, this is our data plan. So this is like a little timeline. This is just words. I want to get more into that. So here I am as the trusted voice, asking you to be the trusted voice, to give knowledge and insight of the community, to reach everyone with the message of what the census is about. Now, some of your nonprofits in the area, some of your faith-based organizations are going to be my partner even deeper by becoming a complete count committee, where we're going to encourage people to count in their areas, talk to them, mobilize, even have places for them to fill out if need be. And that's how we spread the word. So privacy, the big thing is the jobs. So let's talk about the jobs.
And actually, before we talk about jobs, I wanted to ask, like Pastor Easley on Nassau County Complete Count Committee, he was
Yes.
on the committee.
Yes, he is.
So can he, like, authorize for the church to have a census day where we fill out all the information here for all the members, and then just not everybody that's a member that wants to go downstairs, we can just knock it out right then and there, and they'll put their address in
And that's it. So a complete come out committee is a group of government community leaders. That's what that would be me and here, for example, to get elected officials, the schools, get people together to now identify what we need, how to kick it off, how to talk about it, and this is the starting point of it. So my role is to get it started and not take away from the connectivity and your trust in Brandon, be it on your director. So there's an involvement that I get in and then I step out because I know who I represent. But it's just to get it started. And that's where Pastor Easley or Brandon will come in to develop how they want to introduce it. This is sensitive. The same concerns you have, my colleagues in other areas are doing it. New York is a hard to count area, right? We're almost one of the biggest populated, so that happens. I'm trying to get, so this is what I wanted to show you. So this is, it's called Rome. If you picked up the flyer for it, this is public information. This is the information that we get. This is how I'm determining where I'm going. I check this every day. And these are where the questions come. This is all they were asking. Housing. Who's in the housing? What type of housing is it? Do you own it? Do you rent it? Rent. Section 8, right? Because if we know how many people are renting, homeowners, then that's when we get the first-time home buyers grant. Because then we realize people don't own enough homes based on the population. So that means money needs to go there because we want to encourage homeowners. Demographics, sex, male, female, kids, socioeconomic status, poverty, data on the census tract, and available to the public. So this is the tract. So I was trying to pull up the specific Hempstead one. Every location has it, but Hempstead looks the same color as this here. Blue meaning the darkest and the low to count. So when I look at this map, I'm like, I gotta go to Hempstead, I gotta go to Glen Cove, Roosevelt, Freeport, Westbury. Those are my hard to count. This is similar to the information that comes from the census. What's the total population? What's the median household income? Again, when people want to open up businesses and they realize that I'm trying to hit Amazon or anything, bring in a big business or organization, and the median income is $23,000, I'm going to lower my price. But we're not telling them that, right? And think about Long Island. Think about why there's a corridor. So when you write grants, They don't ask for grants and community organizations in Roslyn, in Manhasset, right? Because the income level is a little bit different, right? But what puts us in a bad predicament is that if you look at the median income of Long Island, I mean, we're talking about $150,000, $160,000. Those individuals that make that are reporting it, right? So now, if we don't have real data, because now we're adding our income to that income, and then the median of that, we still at $100,000, and that ain't accurate. But if we were honest on what we're making, because at this point we need to be honest, right? We're putting it up there. They are calculating. It's math.
So we don't need aid.
So we don't need aid. And then they go deeper, and then they start looking like, oh, Hempstead do. Then it's too late because now we lost the federal dollars, right? So now we're scrambling for local dollars and state dollars because we're just not telling them how much we're making. We're not doing the population. I mean, this is when we have a program where we teach students how to do this data, right? So if you have this population, right, this under the age group, so this one here is only saying about 8% is under the age of 5. So if you look at this data, look, below poverty level, only 39%. I can explain. Let me tell you, Hempstead right now, they're saying 20% is below poverty level. So I couldn't even pull up 20%. Please don't leave. I have kids. Not bothering me. Exactly, mom's not running around. You know, this is the information. This is the numbers that we see. This is the real numbers. Below poverty, high school graduation rate. Because now we're not just relying on the school districts to give us their graduation rate, right? We want to see, you got to compare data. My phone? That's my phone?
No, I thought the screen was blurry.
Oh, sorry. It might be a little blurry too. What's the real population? I remember growing up in Hempstead High School, they told us it was 1 or 2% black. You remember that? I mean, white. Remember? I was looking for that white person. You know, because you want to see the numbers. I think they said 5%. Who was reporting that? Now, again, we want quality data. That's why I brought that up. So we do want people, when they do fill it out, give us the right information. So we say men lie, women lie. Numbers don't lie. And each one of these questions is very specific to an aid, a grant, or something. And this is all the information that we ask for and that we get. So this goes to show you. So Hempstead, again, is like blue. I told you Roosevelt, Freeport. So I deploy myself in these areas to talk to the trusted voices here and create partners to get people to fill this out. And that's what this is. Any questions about this data? So working in the school district, this is the same as looking at test scores, looking at report cards, and then allocating based on that. It's the same thing. All right, so the good thing is that I told you that I write grants. We have a data team, and when you're writing a grant, you have to use the ACS and the census information. So what I'm doing, another plan, is to go out to these nonprofits that service us in the community and help them because they fight for the dollars. We know FCA, I can name all of them. FCA, we know the Youth Board, Hispanic Counseling Center, we have Long Beach Reach, MLK Center. These are the places here that need this information. So we want them to be partners too. So I meet with them to get them to tell the rest of the community how important, because their funding is based on that. We know infamous Mel Jackson, the Leadership Training Institute, has been here for years from donations and from government funding. Workforce, you know what it's saying? That this area is below poverty level. We need more workforce training. Department of Labor offer grants for workforce. USDA offer it. Everything. The new thing is we talked about what's happening in Suffolk County at MS-13. And Cuomo gave a lot of money to any organization that wanted to provide some type of after-school programming or something for the youth because statistics is showing they have nothing to do. We already knew that here. We already knew what was here. I grew up at Percy Jackson. I had a place to go. But we know places like Percy Jackson, anywhere, can't survive off of private funding. No. It's servicing the same kids. So what I'm saying is when we fill it out, it's a cycle. In business, it's a cycle, right? I have a product, you buy it, you work, you make the product, it's called a business. It's the same with the funding. We get the funding, it's used on us. It's not used on anybody else. It's used on the people here. We then create better citizens, better people. We catch up, right? We get the aid that we need. But if we don't put the information in, we don't get the funding, we don't catch up, we don't get what we deserve. and we can't be that productive citizen. We need to catch up. So I know another distraction, people talking about the 40 acres and the mule and things like, it's just a different spin. We deserve the funding that we need to make Hempstead back to where it needs to be. So you will start seeing campaigns, you will start seeing marketing, I got it down back here, media, and the department that I came from. So now I'm here to answer any other questions. So let me talk about the jobs. We are looking to hire about 1,600 enumerators. I did the job fair at Nassau. I was there helping people fill it out. I encourage my family members. I can take it to fill out the jobs. It's really important because that helps us. That's less I have to do or say when you have people from the community. And what that is that you're going to pick your area where you live and say, I want to be a enumerator in my community. I know the people. I'm going to ask my Aunt Mary to fill out this thing. I'm going to check the people. I'm going to walk out my door. It's from $17 to like $18 and $25 an hour. You pick your schedule. You get paid weekly because they want you to have the money. The budget is there. You will start, if you fill out that job application, we'll start calling you May or June. I will be at the center to help. We're asking a lot of the the community organizations to hold hiring committees for you to fill it out. I've been helping on my own. People have email addresses because you need an email address to fill it out. Hi. And you go on with an iPad to people's houses saying, hey, can you just fill this out? Yeah, check, check, check. All right, just hit send for me. Great. Up next. And that's it. So the unique thing is that I work from home. So I do everything from home, a similar format. I step out, right? So I started here. I think I got here at 7. Same format. There's no hidden agenda to it. And that's really the Census Bureau. If there's any particular question about education or nonprofit or grants, yes, anything from online I can answer.
How do you overcome objections? As an enumerator, are they teaching you? You going to teach people how to overcome?
Oh yeah, there's a full training on not only taking the information, how to respond. I have a script that I have to say that I add on to it. So when you come in with your specific questions, I'm ready. We have these talking points. You know, we all work together. But yes, the enumerators are trained on how to take the information. They're field supervisors, and we're looking for supervisors as well. When you apply for the job, it's going to ask you to take an assessment. So the job is easy to apply. There's a link here that is here. And when you apply to this link, you need an email address, create a profile, give us your information, answer a couple of questions that they deem to be qualified, like a personality test, the question. Then they say, would you like to be a supervisor? Take the supervisor questions. You answer the supervisor questions. When are you available? Done deal, we'll call you. And we're looking for a minimum of 1,200 people. Now, if we go to the population of Hempstead, that's almost about 5% of us that can have a job. And that's just the minimum that we're looking for. So we're looking for in each area. So you apply for the job, they call you in, that's it. Now, that's for the field testers, enumerators jobs. I applied for a job at USA Jobs. And we are looking for administrative manager, recruiting manager, clerk, and assistant regional manager there. Regional administrative manager. So we're looking for salary positions as well that will work the whole entire year, and this is a temporary job, and it happens every 10 years. So these are the jobs. It goes more into detail of why we have the census here. If you pick this up, great visuals for you. I have a folder. It talks about the young children. That's why I want baby to stay here. Why it's important to talk about that. WIC is very important. So if anybody that's eligible for WIC, so working in education, we realize the first 11 years are the most important years. Nutrition, health, right? Well-being is important for our children. That is what the achievement gap is, right? Because it's all the same standards, the same curriculum. New York controls the curriculum and the standards. New York, California, Texas are the biggest areas. So it's really not about the curriculum and standards. It's the wrap around so that our kids are eating. Our kids are well-being, well-taught, they are clothed, they are nutritionists. Those are the things that our kids are missing, and that's why it's important to encourage the families of children to fill this out. If you have any other questions, this is about confidentiality. This goes more into detail than what I could say to you about confidentiality, and I think that's about it. Good.
I'm sorry.
Well, first, let's just give Monique a round of applause.
Thank you.
And now, questions. questions, Alicia?
Go ahead, Lisa.
What is the age range for the jobs? Is it 18 and up?
If you fill out, you could be 17 and then turn 18 between now and April. It updates automatically.
April of 2020?
Mhm.
Okay.
So if you turn 18 before then, that's perfect. We encourage college kids to fill it out as well based on where they're going to be during the census time. You can put how many hours that you want to work. Again, the more hours you're available in the beginning. And that's, yeah, so you just, if you're a male, you have to have select the service number that you registered. And those are the main requirements, yeah. You don't need a resume. So you do not need a resume. You just fill it out, create your profile, and that is it.
We work criminal background checks.
We encourage everybody to apply. So for those that did have, based on the situation at hand, criminals, past convicts, felons, whatever, were able to apply and get a job. So we encourage everybody. We need the community to take these jobs, hit unemployment, underemployment, or anything. Whatever your reason is, we don't even care about that. That's why we don't even look at your resume. Our main goal is to get the count in the right place at the right time. So we just want people that are comfortable with going in the community saying, please fill this out, hit send, and go. And the salaries goes from like $18 to $25 an hour. There will be a field supervisor that you report to, so that will be in your area, including myself, that you go back and forth and you talk to as you get information. Sometimes you need a debrief. You know, we know what this is, and so you might need to debrief and might say, you know, I think like I'm invading. They're all trained to get you just to get the information and go.
Supervisors, how many hours per week?
It depends. You might have a group that only does 10 and you might do 20. You're definitely going to do more than your team will have, but it's all based on your availability. So they work around based on your availability.
Any other questions?
Well, I have a question you may have answered before I came in. My interest is not in jobs. My interest is in being sure that we reach the people to get the information that we need.
Yes.
And I don't know if you address this issue in terms of coming to places like Union. Other than that, in terms of going other places, I'm not trying to be, well, let me just put it out there.
Go ahead.
We have a large Hispanic population in Hempstead. What are not you, but the program doing to try to address them so that they understand the need for them to participate in filling out the census, and of course they too can get the jobs. And I was wondering, how were you addressing
Yeah, so we
those
did
groups?
talk about that. So I meet
Okay.
with the stakeholders that represents everybody in the population. So I talked about some specifically people that I met with, but I am out there meeting the individuals that are considered these trusted voices to get everyone to fill it out. So it's not only the jobs, it's the meetings, the community events, the posters. So I even go into the laundromat. I go into the library. I post flyers there. I know Hempstead. So I know the areas where everybody is at. And so basically it's like one of those subliminal things where you're going to start seeing the census sign. You're probably like, Monique, to put that sign there. Because that's what I do, right? So I put the signs there. I meet with them. I go to the school districts. Most importantly, I speak every language. So I have a master's in business, so I know what the business person is thinking about. I have a master's in public administration, so I'm talking to executive directors, I'm talking to the youth board, I'm talking to the only people I can't talk to is the elected officials, but I talk to the public. And then I have a school building leader license, so I know what principals need, I know what teachers need. It talks about unions, contracts. All this information is important for a community.
You talked to the Office of Minority Affairs?
Yes, I did. They partnered with me with the fair on Monday. Erica Hill and Dexter. Yep, I was there with them. They created that job fair, and Nassau County had the highest recruitment than Suffolk County because of Monday. But that is my role, to talk to all of the stakeholders in the community that can speak their language. If it's they, we talked about that, they, them, us, whomever it is, to say how important this is. And my job is to break it down to that terminology and how important it is. I create pamphlets, handouts, I have conversations, phones, I sit into community centers. I'm going to DSS and have a table at DSS to offer jobs there.